All right. Hi, guys. My name is Dr. Sharnael Wolverton-Sehon. I'm with Swiftfire. Super stoked today because we have another fellow natural doctor on the show, Jason Dean, who I'm just kind of starting to get to know here a little bit as far as following him a little bit. And first of all, thank you so much for being with us. I know you're on the road and got a lot of things going on. Thank you for taking time out to be with us for a little bit today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And anything we can do to help spread the message of everything right now, from political healing to natural healing to it all. So I appreciate what you do as well.
Awesome. So I was going to share just real quickly how I came to know you, and then also would love for you to share kind of how you got not just involved in the natural aspect of medical, but definitely let's get to the political too, because you and I both share a lot of things in common with that. Um, there's a lady named Crystal Washington, one of my best friends, and she sent me a video. The very first one that I saw of you was with you and Jason Q. I think it was his first time being on your show. And I had never heard of either of you at that point. And I was just like, holy crap, these guys, you both have such amazing gifts. They're so different, and yet they really work together. And what the thing that I appreciate about you mostly, Jason, and I don't know you personally, but just from maybe the 5, 6 things I've seen, and then your posts, I've been like stalking you because I'm a fan for sure.
That's
But
okay.
I am a geek. I'm a science geek, and I like data. I'm a teacher. I need data. And when you watch the news, obviously we're getting the Mockingbird program narrative. And also, even on most of the platforms that I've ever been engaged in or participated in or entertained, they say a lot, but you do it differently. You are an evidence-based network, and as you are talking in real time, you actually pull up videos, pull up documents, and Jason pulls up stuff too. And but even without Jason, you've been doing that. I mean, you just pop up stuff. You're like, oh, and let me show you, blah blah blah, and let me show you, and blah blah blah, and let me. I could not love that even. I cannot love it more because I think that's a big part of what people are missing when they're hearing all these things everywhere. It's like, well, where's the proof? Where's the proof? I want to see it. I want to see it. And I've done my best to document and show, but I'm not techie like you are, and I have a lot of stuff all over the place, and I'm a coder, and I love source and code, and but the way you do it, the way you communicate it, and the level that you're at is just mind-blowing. So tell me, like, how did you get in the medical stuff, and then how did you bridge over, or has it always been, or just tell everybody here about you more, because I didn't know about you. And when I got the interview set up, I actually sent something out to my email list. I have about 40,000 on my email list. And I was like, hey, I don't really know this guy, but I have him. And I had a tiny percent of people came back and they're like, oh my God, I've been watching him too. And then a bunch of people are like, tell me more. And I'm just like, watch the show, just sending them to your platform. And I've gotten so much feedback just in the last few days from people who decided to take the courage to go out and check you out and come back and go, no wonder she's freaking out. So tell me all about it.
Where do you start? Well, let me first start off, and what I'll do is I'll blend and I'll mold the healthcare into the politics, because hey, there's like three things, or actually two things, that society is not supposed to talk about. They always say, like, when you're getting together with your family, don't talk about religion, don't talk about politics, and kind of like science too. But first and foremost, for anybody out there listening right now, science, the word science has been completely manipulated, destroyed, and used against society. So science number one is observation. Observation is it, that's what science is. I mean, so from a clinical standpoint, because I actually work with patients every day, clinically, you walk in, and the example is, if I'm a physician, which I am, and I walk into a waiting room, and I have a person who is coming to see me, and I go out there, observe. So if a person feels like crap, do they look like they're happy? Well, majority of the time, no. Well, there's observation number one. They don't feel good. They're not happy. Life is not going well at all. And so that's science, right? So we've been told that science is peer-reviewed articles, that science is quote unquote evidence-based, probably one of the most despised words that I have in my language, which is evidence-based. And it doesn't mean evidence-based at all. It just means pharmaceutically based or paid for by a conglomerate or a corporation. And I am not anti-capitalism. I'm actually pro free market capitalism, but the system has been taken over. And so then from there, science is what makes the person get better, what helps the person get better, what helps society run better. Because you can run science from a healthcare standpoint, you can run science from a political standpoint, you can run science from an everyday standpoint, you can run science from a spiritual standpoint. Like science is science, it's observation and then trying things until you get to the desired outcome. Now that doesn't mean to throw medication and everything at them. That just means, what does the person need? What is going into the system that is not working? And like, you can take this from a political standpoint and a healthcare standpoint. What are you putting into the system that is not working? Well, lately we're putting corruption into the system and it's not working, meaning scientifically, observation wise, it doesn't work, right? Versus if you put natural into the system, if you put natural laws into the system, whether it's politics, healthcare, spirituality, anything, it actually makes it work, because that's what science is, right? So observation and then actual clinical outcomes or outcomes in general. So from a healthcare standpoint, and I'm going to put these together for you. From a healthcare standpoint, I grew up not necessarily in the medical paradigm. I grew up, I wasn't taken to the doctor, constantly for sickness or for colds or anything like that. I grew up relatively pretty healthy, actually. But keep in mind, I also grew up in the era where you sat in the front seat or the back seat without a seatbelt, or in the back of a truck. I mean, I own a truck now, and I wanted to drive my daughter down the road in the back of a truck, and my wife's like, "That's not happening." I'm like, "What? I grew up with that. Come on, like, get in the back. Let's go for a ride." So I grew up in the dirt. I grew up playing in the dirt. I grew up going outside with a screen door, and you came back in either for lunch or, I know it's
Same.
cliche. I know it's cliche, but I came back in when it was getting dark.
Yeah.
And then it was, we got the words from our parents or our grandparents of in or out, one or the other. Like, if you're going out, you're out. If you're staying in, you're in. And we got into things. We fell out of trees. We lived. That is science. That's life of science right there. Hey, you fall out of a tree and hurt yourself, don't do it again. You go in the dirt and you eat something you don't feel good, don't do it again. But you're also building up your immune system. And so from a healthcare standpoint, I guess I've always been natural, even though I didn't understand natural health until I met my wife. I was in chiropractic. I got adjusted as a kid every month or so. And then when I met my wife, who is a chiropractor, I actually left the marketing and business field and I moved over to natural healthcare. And I moved over for one simple reason. I left my actually it wasn't a 9-to-5 job. It was a 24-hour day job. People ask me, how do you work so much now and how do you get so much done? I'm like, because I've been doing this since day one. I started working the day I turned 16 years old, because my mom said, I don't have a lot of money. So if you want a car, if you want insurance, if you want all this different stuff,
Dude,
you're going to pay for it yourself. And
that's
so
right.
I was working 20, 30 hours while I was in high school. I was working on the weekends. There was
Me too.
no staying home playing video games, all that stuff. So I've kind of been blended into this world from the very beginning. And then before I came into natural healthcare, to chiropractic and nutrition, I worked on the road. I was in the sports industry and I loved it. It was a blast. I was working in the NFL, college football, basketball, baseball, you name it. And, I got paid a salary for 9 to 5, but I worked from 6 in the morning until 1, 2 a.m. on the road every week, every weekend, etc. So for me, I work around the clock because it's fun, but I find ways to have fun with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I find the purpose in it. And now I get to work all the time in things I actually like really, really love, because this is purpose. And so that's how I ended up in the natural health field, because I actually saw people get better and get off of drugs and not need surgery anymore. And remember, science is observation. I go back to that beginning again. And when someone is on 2, 3, 5, 10 medications, or has been vaccinated into oblivion, and then all of a sudden you see their body turn around, you see the light come back, you see their eyes turn back on, that's called science. You're seeing the body actually start working again. You're seeing health manifest. That is natural laws. That is science. That is pure observation. And so that's how I ended up in the healthcare world. And then realizing, obviously, the train wreck that is chemicals and vaccines and everything else. And we'll go into that later. But politically, I grew up on the wrong side. I grew up watching with my grandfather. And so I learned very early on patriotism, politics, and we did not play politics from a standpoint of you don't talk about it. Politics was very widely spoken in our house. So people are like, why are you so into politics? I grew up with this because it wasn't politics so much, it was a passion for your country.
Yes.
It was patriotism. I grew up in a world where most of my family came from a military background. I did not. And not that I felt like I had to rise up to that level, but I saw a standard set in households.
Yes.
So there's ethics, there's morals, there's family, there's work ethic, there's discipline. Like, we don't just go do stupid stuff like riot. That's not ethical. You don't harm somebody else. You
Right.
don't take away from somebody else. And so I saw that world. Now, we were on the conservative side. I would say like conservative war hawk. I was in that whole Republican world in the very beginning, the Bush, the Reagan, the Nixon stuff. And then Ron Paul woke me up to real politics and what really goes on. And again, back to science, back to observation. Money sucks. It's fake. We're in wars everywhere. Troops are dying, etc. After a certain point, you wake up and go, this doesn't seem like the natural way that our country should work, that our planet should work, that our globe should work, that other countries should work. And so I slowly slid into not a little libertarian, but I wanted to honestly say constitutional. Like, it's back to natural laws. I'm very much libertarian is a good way of putting it today, but I even go deeper than that in the fact that I like to go back to the founding principles, the founding documents, the Franklin, the Jefferson, the Patrick Henry, the Washington. Go back to how this country was actually founded. And I encompass that all in conclusion with, when you look at all three of those aspects of life, and natural laws, science, and observation all come together there. And so that's kind of a snapshot summary of how I ended up here, which is calling out the BS that is perpetrated on us every single day in healthcare, in spirituality, in science, in politics, you name it, and just giving people a different viewpoint on it and trying to make this country, not to take the slogan, but make this country great again the way it was supposed to be.
Yeah, and he says we make this country great. He doesn't say I'm going to, which is really key, because conscious language and the vibration of and frequency of those words means that there is an active participation required on everybody as a collective, and that we can't just lean on, like, let's just wait for Jesus to do it or God to do it, or, like what you're doing is you're taking responsibility, responsible, and the avenue that you have, and actually doing this and bringing truth in action, making steps and actually actively doing something about it. Because I don't know if you have felt this, but there's times when it's like, it seems a bit overwhelming and I'm just like, oh my God, I feel helpless. But at the same time, it's like, nope, just keep on doing what I'm doing, put one foot in front of the other, keep sharing, keep talking, do whatever I need to do just at least so I can sleep at night knowing that I spoke out the truth in love of whatever I know to do. And I appreciate so much what you're doing. I don't know if everybody knows this, I'm sure you do, but the word doctor it's people misunderstand that word. And I saw your video with Dr. Q, and that was really cool too. The word doctor actually means teacher.
That's right.
So we're in this, whether it's teaching on any level, to actually help people and ignite people to their own responsibility, we can be response able versus reactive, not just physically, but like you said, mentally, spiritually, politically, whatever. And I just really thank you. We have a lot of similar things as far as the growing up stuff too, because yeah, I was outside, latchkey kid. I grew up military, like my entire family, except for me, probably is military. My son is a Ranger. So,
Nice.
and actually a son-in-law, but I say son because he's lived across the street since he was 10 years old and been in my house since he's 10. So
he's your son.
He's my son, and I've been deployed a couple times. And this stuff with the flag or Antifa or whatever. I mean, I was in Germany. I lived in England. I've been in 44 countries. I know what third world countries look like. I kiss the ground when I come back home. We had our car blown up. I've seen demonstrations on the street. I've been to East Berlin, been a part of Montauk Project. I know the My Lab stuff all the way through, in and out. Like, we have to stand up. Like, if you and I and different people aren't doing it, do you get people who are like, oh, I'm so glad you're doing this because I could never do that? Do you ever get that? Because I get that all the time. They're like, oh, thanks for doing that because I just couldn't. It's like,
yeah, but it goes back to responsibility. So you made a really good point, and I like to jump on this and preach from the rooftop. Is there's so many people that did do yes say, I'm glad you're doing it. I could never do that. How do you even do it? I'm like, how do I do it? Oh, I actually hit a little button on here that says go live, and that's how I do it. Like, there's no, I have zero experience or background in production, in film, in video, in audio, etc. All I know is something's wrong in the country, something's wrong in healthcare, something's wrong in politics. And I know a lot of the truths behind it that I study. So it's time for me to turn my camera on, whether it's record or live, and get it out there so that more people will actually do it. But it's a responsibility. We're in this jam right now in 2020, not because of them, because of us. There's only 13 families at the top, right? There's not that many people. There's actually not that many trillionaires, billionaires, millionaires. There's actually a lot more people that are not that high on the ladder, right? And so in reality, the reason why we're here is because as citizens, and this pushes people's buttons and makes them upset, and I don't really care. The reason why we're here is because we dropped responsibility for our country. When Ben Franklin came out after signing the documents and they said, what do you have? And Benjamin Franklin said, we have a republic if you can keep it. That wasn't just like a nice little saying. That was, we are a responsible group to keep what we have, and we gave that up. You can say Joe Biden all day long, hey, he's stealing money. He's stealing money. This guy's stealing money. That guy's stealing money. Our government's corrupt. Well, we let it get that way. How do we remember at the dinner table, at the family gathering, we're not allowed to talk about politics. Really? Well, how about we stop talking about politics and we start talking about what bills are going through right now? How does this affect us? What people are running for city council? What people are running for community elected positions? Those jobs are not actually that hard to get into. All you have to do is go and say hi to some people and actually have a platform and have ideas and responsibility. But we dropped that. So how do we get it back? We go through what we're going through right now, whereas people are waking up. I hate that we had a pandemic, but at the same time, it has been honestly a blessing in disguise, because how many people have been sitting at home the last 7 months and have been finding myself or yourself or other people out there and realizing that there's something wrong, and they start researching. So in reality, we're going to look back on this and go, wow, that was really a pivotal moment. We are in a revolution right now, back to 1776. Now we still have to keep going because there's many more things we have to get done, but it's fascinating because just a couple of years ago, you and we weren't even supposed to be constitutional. We weren't even supposed to be conservative, right? If the average person looked at you on camera right now and they saw what looked like maybe essential oils in the back on a shelf, and they see a keto cookbook or book and everything else, but then they see this guy President Trump behind you and they're like, wait a second,
I get that all the time.
right, you're in natural health, you're supposed to be some crazy off the wall liberal, you're supposed to be a Democrat because you believe in natural things. When did that happen? When, like, conservatives were supposed to believe in medicine, they were supposed to believe in science. Well, guess what? We're not going back to conservatism. We're not going back to Republican. We're not going back to anything like that. We're going back to the Constitution. And the Constitution was not Republican or Democrat. It was natural laws. And natural laws work, whether it's politics, whether it's spirituality, whether it's healthcare. Everything in life is a natural law. And that's what we're getting back to.
Yeah, so that's funny that you mentioned it, because I do CrossFit, and every time I meet someone new, they're in the gym, they're like, oh yeah, I saw you on the video, because there's a group, and then everyone in the group, I guess goes and looks and sees, and I saw your video, and like, you just, your tattoos and your nose, like, I had no idea, I never would have got that from you, that you're a Trump person. And I'm like, yep, that's the way it is, crystals, but Tesla's all about crystals, there's so much, it's still science to me. Frequency of the oils is crystals, the consciousness, the biofield. There's no separation with any of these topics. We have segmented that. We have cut everything up, and part of integration and part of integrity, the word integrity comes from integration. Part of being in integrity is having that integration, whether it's mind, body, spirit, emotions, and my background, I actually I've done a lot of jobs, but my undergraduate is in wellness and fitness, or wellness and kinesiology, only because I wanted to be in ministry since I was like 4, or service, in my mind, service or military. And the denomination that I was a part of for several years wouldn't allow women in ministry. So they told me, do something, and marry like a missionary or something, or a pastor. So I was like, okay, whatever. And obviously I'm not in that group anymore. But what I love about you is, when I first started watching you, it was just more like health and this and that. And I love all that. And then you start going out there with like the real stuff, like the deep stuff. Like when you started talking about like Bible and the real Bible and source, and going into ET stuff and UFOs and everything, I was like, oh my God, this guy he knows way more than and you're, the way you kind of tiptoe into it. I mean, I love what you're doing, because the very frequency that you speak and the very essence of who you are is coming out into the biofield, and it's literally like keys igniting people. And if the subconscious, is literal, conscious, not so much. So someone could be watching this or you, which I encourage everybody, please watch him every single night. He's at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30, go watch him. But as he speaks, you're like, you have keys. These keys are igniting. And even though the conscious brain might be going like, I have no idea, I don't get this, the subconscious is going boop, 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 and it's just raising up people. So yeah, I know you're going to do like something on clones, and definitely something on the Bible. That's going to be an awesome topic. Tell us a little bit how you even got into that venue, because like, it seems like it's been more prevalent. Maybe I just didn't see it until now, but it seems like you've kind of edged out a little bit. Is that true?
Well, I've always kind of been there. It's more of we have to slowly bring people around to what's really going on. And first and foremost, I always tell everybody, I do not care what your background is, your spiritual beliefs are, which color you are. It means nothing from a standpoint of materialism. What you are, who you are. You are who you are. And I think everyone at this point is heard in some way, shape, or form We are not our bodies. We are having a spiritual experience. This is a meat body. It doesn't last long. Whether you die and go to heaven and you only live once, or you live a billion times, whatever background you come from, it doesn't technically matter. What is truth for you? And I know that's a little woo-woo, and some people are like, well, I thought you were into this whole patriot thing and this America thing and this Trump thing and this constitutional thing. Why are you now diving into the spiritual woo-woo? Well, remember what I said. Welcome to your new world, where we have people who actually know what's going on, who've been researching this for a very long time. And that just because it's spiritual and woo-woo does not mean it doesn't have anything to do with patriotism, right? We live
Oh,
in
so good.
America. And now America is a label. I understand that, but we still live in a great country, right? Our founding documents were based on divine natural laws. When I say divine natural laws, trust me, this is the other kicker. I always go back to this too. The founders, right? And when I say the founders, it's obviously a group. There's lots of names, and there's more that I can name off right now because how many people were actually involved. The founders did not have televisions. They did not have cell phones. They did not have video games.
That's awesome.
We are so unfortunately tainted today, because I mean, this stuff is great. I love this technology because it is allowing us to do what we're doing right now. But this was not around back then. They had pamphlets. Go look up founders and pamphlets. You're going to get a whole history lesson on their news cycles, right? So what did they do? They worked around the clock. I mean, one of the craziest parts is, if you look at the founders, go look up founders and like sleep cycles. They had the craziest, strangest, like they didn't go to bed at like, 10 o'clock at night and get up at 6 or 7. Like they had very like genius Tesla type sleep schedules where they were up overnight. Like they worked around the clock. But on top of that, they didn't go sit down and watch 4 hours of television a night. They studied, they read, they wrote. I mean, not on a typewriter, but they were writing, right? They were writing by candlelight at night. We are in such a different world now, and this is what we have to go back to from even a spiritual standpoint. It's so funny. The thing that comes up most often, and one of the things that people do a lot of questioning on, is this Mason thing, right? Masons are not inherently bad. There's a lot of Masons out there. They're really good people. That was taken over. Masons, the original Masons, were actually every day looking for source, for God, for creation. That's what our country, that's what these documents are founded on. We keep going back to these documents, and we have a lot of I call millennial snowflakes. I love them to death, but some of them are very, very jaded, right? And if you ask them what the founding documents are, they couldn't tell you. And they go, why do you guys keep talking about those archaic documents? Well, those archaic documents are divinely led and have led to the greatest nation on the planet. Now, I am not putting down any of our international friends, Canadian friends, Russian, I'm just saying that we had a group of people that came up with documents that were literally divine, because they came up with a republic, not a democracy. Don't say democracy. If you hear yourself saying democracy at all in the future, stop yourself. We are in a republic, and a republic is, to this day, the greatest form of government that has ever been founded. We have people out there who are going, well, we're going to be an anarchy. We're going to have anarchy where there's no rules, so everyone can live free. Natural laws have laws. That's the whole point. There's laws. You can't just do whatever you want to. And so I have a lot of anarchist friends. I can get along with them just fine, but we have very different beliefs. When I go back to this whole woo-woo thing, why do I talk about UFOs? Why do I talk about aliens? Why do I talk about all this different stuff? Welcome to natural laws. Our founders were also looking into the skies. If you go into the Bible, guess what? And this is actually interesting, because I'm not talking about your local pastor who has a full-time job during the week and then, and nothing wrong with that, and then goes and does a sermon on Sunday. I'm talking about the people, the theologians, the philosophers of the Bible, who literally, if you sit down and talk to them, they will actually take you through and they will show you where the Bible actually talks about all of this stuff. It talks about ETs. It talks about UFOs. If you don't think so, then guess what? Sorry, but you're misreading it. Now, get what you can from it. I'm not saying that your version is wrong for you. I'm just saying it's all in there. right?
Yeah.
They were taught. When you go back to biblical times, like let's talk about the three wise men, right? They were following the stars. Guess what? They had technology back then that some of us don't even have today. They were following the stars. They were following the planets. This is all about astronomy, astrology. I always get the astrology is kind of like the horoscope thing. Astronomy is, I think, the planetary thing. It's not my area of field, but this all comes together. So when people are like, how does this all blend? Spirituality blends in with politics, blends in with it's all together. And so that's why I like to dive down those, because I find it fascinating. A lot of people are like, why do you talk about it? Because when I actually study those things, I feel better. And when I feel better, that typically means, and when I say feel better, I don't mean like a high or anything like that. I'm just talking about I feel naturally good when I'm studying those things. I have found for myself in life, if I am feeling naturally good, not a synthetic high like a drug high, but if I am feeling naturally good and positive and high vibration, that usually means I'm looking at the right thing.
Yeah, because there's a frequency to truth. There's a
Correct.
frequency to love, and it's energizing. And you talk about the sleep cycles. I was just sharing this the other day. Not only do I say have trouble sleeping, probably isn't the best way to say it, because it's just like I don't get a lot of sleep. And also, I forget to eat. I don't know about you, but I could go literally days without eating. And my husband will be like, have you eaten? And I mean, if the kids are here, I cook, the whole thing. He cooks, like I'm not
Yeah.
starving anybody. But when they're not, like I can literally, or I'll just fix them something and I'll be like, I'm good. I'll just drink something and I'm on to the next thing. I don't know if that comes back from military or
When you're spiritually aligned, you actually need less food. I mean,
Yeah.
I do not have any personal experience with this, but based on some of my research, and I can only go off research. I don't physically have proof. Based on some research I've done, there are monks and shamans up in God knows where on this planet, like in the jungles or wherever, that eat very little, and I've even heard some don't eat at all, because when you are completely spiritually sound, you don't need your body, and you don't actually need quote unquote nourishment from food. Because remember, that's a body thing.
3D. Yeah.
That's a body thing. And hey, I eat every day. I'm not to complete spiritual alignment where I'm like I don't need anything anymore. But I will tell you, when I'm feeling really good and everything's working, I eat far less. I really do.
Yes. And another thing that I want to bring up too is I love how you bring so many different guests on who have all kinds of different, ideas or beliefs, but you don't let that like stop you from having them or what have you. I mean, I've had different people too, and people are like, oh my God, why did you have her? Or what, that person who does astrology or astronomy, or that person who believes in flat earth or what. It's like, I'm personally not a flat earth person, but I could be tomorrow. Like I'm okay to be, I'm totally 100% secure in myself to be wrong and admit that I'm wrong when I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, because I have been wrong for so long with the programming that, and you do the same. It seems like you do the same. And you were so eloquently like pop in and go, well, I'm glad you believe that. And I'm not there yet, but keep going. And you're just really good with that communication.
I think one, if not the greatest superpower on the face of this planet, is the ability and the know-how to take in a viewpoint, look at other viewpoints, and either make up your mind to make a decision, or change your mind, or change a decision. So for example, I actually get very, very concerned, and I will not be around people who are fixated completely on the viewpoint they have, and they will not alter from that. I actually will gravitate away from that, because in my opinion, and I use this word very, very loosely, is almost dangerous. Meaning, if you are stuck in that world and you've been there for 10, 20, 30, 40, your whole life years, there's a problem, because that means you're not studying. That means you're not learning, because when you learn, things shift. If you took me today compared to 20 years ago, when I was 20 some years old, you have a very, very, very different Jason Dean at 23 years old than you do Jason Dean at 43 years old. And I'm going to tell you the decisions I had then. Let's just say, folks out there, I'm really happy that these things right here were not around when I was in my 20s, because it would have been not good. 20 years old with a phone back then that do what these things do versus 43 with a wife and a child and a family, etc. Very different world. So you just have to kind of, the most powerful thing you can do is shift that mindset. Even a year ago,
Yeah,
I have different,
I'm serious.
I have a different mind now than I did a year ago. I mean, people say, you brought up earlier, like, how do you get on this camera and do all this? Guess what? A year ago, I was doing this, but not at the level I was doing it now. You know why? My mind shifted. My mind shifted from let's do this, let's have fun, to 7 months ago, I said, the game has changed. It is now my responsibility to push out as much education and knowledge as humanly possible. That was a mindset shift, totally mindset shift. And I will tell you, 6 nights a week, my wife has to be fully on board. My kid has to be fully on board, because 6 nights a week on top of a day job and everything else.
Yeah.
But if you sit us down at a table and ask us, my wife would be right there behind me saying, yes, this is what has to be done. And growing up, I didn't have the same mindset. So the most powerful thing in summary of that's long drawn out, is if you can't shift your mindset and you can't change a mind, even on some of the most powerful things that you've been taught or told in life or you believe, you got to rethink that, because your mind is always going to shift.
Yes, and that's the actual real word of repent. This is the penthouse, the headmaster, the headquarters. To repent means to think again, think on these things. It's like,
Totally.
you can, yeah, and even on a conscious level and a bio pattern, biofield level, we can actually create from the heart and the mind a whole new pattern based on what we're thinking, what we're talking about, and what we're feeling. So I could say to anybody, hey, think about New York City and Statue of Liberty right now. Okay, and now think about Paris, Eiffel Tower. Just that second of shifting from here to here is how fast you can actually shift all of this, which is not only radiating out, but it's magnetizing back in. So you're recreating and repenting over and over and over again with each thought and everything you're talking about. And
totally.
Yeah, so
I've had interviews on. I have interviews on all the time, and I don't go into this because it's not. I'm trying to shift out knowledge. I'm not trying to shift out belief systems necessarily, but I've had people on who literally completely opposite opinions of mine, and I you know what? I can sit there comfortably talk to them. I appreciate them as a human being. I may not even agree with all the things they're saying, but hey, let's all get our viewpoints out there and find out what resonates with us. That's what this is about. And I'm not gonna judge you. Don't judge me.
Yes, that's good. Now, you mentioned something about, going into the deep, and I had talked to you a little bit about some of my background. For me, this period, I guess I've been in it since like 4 or 5 years old. I've had these memories and different things have happened for so long, but I didn't have a place to put everything because these memories didn't seem to make sense. And so I really thought I was just imagining. But then then some other stuff came through and it was a big deal. And I actually, so I had to then go and look into some things and not just let it be in my mind anymore, but find concrete evidence. And as I found that evidence, I can tell you, I went through some serious emotional, a really sad grieving time when that really kicked in. And then when this COVID thing happened and we had time, there was another level. And it seems like there's these levels where you get more information and then you have to assimilate and kind of just breathe it out. And, but for you, what do you suggest? Because thank God there's people who, like yourself, have been in this for a longer period of time. And there's several of us who've been around, doing the best to just kind of leak these things out. But for those people who are just coming to this now, I mean, there's a lot of people who are like straight up don't believe in some of the stuff like the laptop and kids and cages, you know, all like they just don't believe it. And, or, you know, what do you tell people who are not only maybe starting to wake up and going through that, but also the people who just like, no, 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 like, what do you do? What do you do?
I don't force anybody. So I also understand the numbers. So let me explain the science and the natural laws of the numbers. I actually had a guest on months ago who really great guy, good friend, Edwin Dearborn. We talked about the 3.5%. The 3.5%. I think there's tons of books out there based on this, like the tipping point. And other, tipping point, other ones as well. And I don't know all the titles, but other ones. And you'll never have 100% of everything. This is a consciousness shift. This takes time. You know, everyone's like, why isn't this happening? Why isn't this overnight? Why aren't people being arrested? Why aren't this? Why? Give me, like, come on, guys. Like that's not how this works. First of all, second of all, it's a giant game, so you have to think of that as well. But you have 3.5%. That is roughly 11 million-ish Americans. That's all you actually need to shift everything in America. It's kind of like when the new iPhone comes out, all right? Not everyone buys it up front. You have the tipping point people that go out and buy it. Like when it comes to technology, I'm not even typically in that first phase. I'm usually in the second wave of people that grab it. I tend to be in the first wave from a political and healthcare standpoint, just because it's really more my wheelhouse. But if you get that percentage, even in 1776, guess what? Not everybody was involved. There's this idea that back during the revolution, that the whole country came together and they overthrew the crown. No, they didn't. It was a group of a handful of, men and women who just had enough. That's all they actually had, right? Because remember, there's only 13 colonies at the time. So you don't have that many people. So right now we have 320-ish million Americans, right? You're not going to get them all. So when people are freaking out, I get comments all the time. Please help defend me on my page because someone doesn't believe in vaccines or clones. I am not. Trust me. On top, first of all, I have too many things going on. I don't have time to do that all day. Second of all, that is not good energy spent by myself or even the person asking for help. The best thing they can do is, instead of battling somebody, educate the people who are willing to listen. Let's get to that 3.5% as fast as we possibly can. So the grand scheme of this thing, as we restore the republic, all right, guess what? Not all the 320 million are going to understand it in the next year. It might take decades before we might have to shift into the next generation. The baby boomers might have to actually pass on before people understand we're actually in a republic again. That's what it takes. But at the end of the day, it only matters that about 11 million of us or so are pushing this button. And I'll be honest with you, I'm sure you've been watching social media, you've been on Twitter, et cetera, all these different places. We have well more than the tipping point on restoring the republic. Now, not all of them realize we're restoring the republic. They just know that something is wrong and we're fixing the problem. So out there, when you push people down the rabbit hole, give them what they can handle.
Push people down the rabbit hole. Love
push
it.
Them down. Just push them down the rabbit hole. There's so many, and trust me, I believe going down a rabbit hole is also a gift. Like, one of my gifts is being able to go down some rabbit holes that are very dark. And I'm not saying to do this, because I will tell you, they've been taxing on myself as well. There's times where I had to get up from a laptop, walk away for a little bit. I wasn't overwhelmed. They just had to, like, let me get my points here in reality. Like, that's dark. That's disgusting. So not everyone can do that. That is a gift. That is a spiritual thing. And then even then, it's something you got to reset yourself on. So get them where they are. You're not, if you think you're going to pound everybody on the vaccine thing, you're not going to pound everyone on the vaccine thing. Guess what? There's still going to be people over the next 10 years that are going to get vaccines. They're going to be kids that get autism. I'm not saying I like that. Welcome to natural laws. This is where we are. We have to slowly transition into the next phase. And again, I don't even like necessarily talking about that, because some people are like, oh my God, we're gonna have, yeah, we have to transition. I mean, could they pull the trigger in like 2 months? And like, it could. I don't know if that's gonna happen. I mean, a freaking UFO could land after the election, and the whole thing is a triggering event, and everything happen. Totally could happen. Do I think that's gonna happen? No, I think it's more of a transition. I actually believe now, in the last couple of days, which I'm doing more work on, we are entering into the fourth industrial revolution. We are
Yeah.
entering into, and people don't even realize it's coming. Everything's going digital. You're going to have 5G now, whether that is a harmful 5G or it's a beneficial, I don't know, but I'm telling you right now, 5G, 6G are coming. Hopefully we can protect ourselves, and hopefully it's a positive thing. We can do it for the right reasons, in a healing way, obviously. But we are entering into the fourth industrial revolution,
Yeah.
and it is becoming more and more clear. So it's our duty to make it as safe as possible, make it as healthy as possible, and continue to just obviously stay as close to those founding documents and natural laws as we can.
Yeah, and when people ask, or when they've been asking about what you do, or what's his thing, when people want to know what's the topic or what's his deal, it's like, only way I can say it is like, he's the real news. Like, that's all I can say. And best network you can get. I mean, yes, it's an hour and sometimes an hour and a half, and that's a commitment for not only you but some of us.
Sure.
But because normal news 30 minutes and you're like, bam, and you're out of here. But you're doing deep topics, so I get that you need more time and stuff. But I'm just saying, what's cool about what you're doing, and many people who are actually taking God in action and doing something, is because of our creative power and because of our abilities. I think they realize that you can't just come in and dictate and force. So what they've done with the Mockingbird is like, let me just put it in every venue possible, whether it's Hollywood, sports, all the things. So we're entrained, because it all comes in on the beta waves. So it's entrained and programmed, and literally tell a vision. Whose vision is it telling? Okay, right? So we come into that, and we're memorized, sleep, programming, and then we are the ones, cancel clear, not me, but just whoever can be the ones like, oh, I better stay inside and wear my mask because, and it's their idea. So it's not hard, but if they can make you think that through their brainwashing instead of by force, then how easy is that? They can just rule the world by the television, by the social media, by the phone, by all the different venues now that social media can do that. And also there's people like you and all the others who are like, you know what, we're going to bypass that box, and we're going to use this for something positive to send out the actual truth. Now, whether you want to participate or believe or become alive in it, totally up to you, but we welcome you, we invite you, and you're inviting so many people to actually have this strength and courage. I mean, I see some of your comments and they're like, what? Or can you go into more? I mean, some of it, they're just baby stepping, and I love it, but they keep coming back. And
this is how true our news is. Now, I knew this was going to happen, and this is all actually part of my, I call it my covert, in a good way, plan for taking over the world with positive, truthful information. Is I knew social media was going to be a train wreck soon. It was written all over the wall. I got my first 1 day ban of Facebook a long time ago.
Oh,
then I got my 3 day ban. I'm at 3 days. I changed my tone a little bit since then, so I would stay around for the election. I got my 3 day ban on YouTube, and I just got my recent. No, I got a 1 week ban on YouTube. Then I got my 2 week ban on YouTube. I'm one strike away from having my YouTube channel wiped, and I don't get it back until about 10 more days, right around election time. So this is how real this news is for everyone out there who's watching. They're banning stuff, they're removing it. I had, before I left for vacation 1 day ago, whatever it was, I woke up to find out all of my ads on Facebook, all of my ad accounts on Facebook are completely removed. They rejected every single ad. They even went to my personal practice page, which is not my channel. Like my wife, our practice, the page, the ad account is completely wiped out.
Wow.
Meaning we can't, and I don't run a lot of ads because we're a referral, we're global and stuff like that. So I'm not too concerned about it. But the whole point was they took away monetary economic gain from helping people.
Wow.
They took my association of me and my channel, and they tied it to our personal practice and removed that. And then this morning I'm driving to the store, I'm talking to my tech guy on the phone, and he says not only did they do that, they actually removed the pixel to your website off of Facebook, meaning no longer can my website, like everyone else out there, when you go to a website and the pixel tracks a person, that's just part of marketing now, right? They wiped that. So if somebody goes to my website, it no longer
Wow.
follows them like every other business out there is allowed to do. And even out there, like all of the liberal businesses who are still allowed to do it, they wiped us. And so
Wow.
ultimately I am taking this via website. I'm taking this via network. I'm going to have podcasters. I'm going to have content creators. We are going to make this literally a global network, because I think we'll get social media back, maybe in a different form going forward, because they're not going to lose it. They don't want to lose money, but we have to take it in our own hands. It goes back to, remember, responsibility, and also changing and pivoting. There's so many people out there who, when they get slapped down a little bit, they go into the little hole and they stop. They stop
Right.
moving because they got their hand slapped, right? Authority pushed them down and they took the suppression and they walked away. No. Welcome to entrepreneurship. Welcome to being American. Welcome to freedom. Welcome to liberty. Welcome to being responsible in your life. You pivot and you make a new way to go. So that's what we're going to do. When they go, I just raise the volume more.
Well, and I love that. It's being sovereign, right?
Correct.
And the thing is, they are doing that. And I've had my share too. 30 days, Facebook one time, YouTube, totally removing videos, no explanation. And then some were reviewed and I could appeal. I hit the appeal, explain, show all the documents. In 2 seconds, it's like, nope, it's like, you're not even reading this. Like it's AI that's like probably behind the thing going, just say no to everything, just automatically. But they know the power of our creative abilities. And so they don't even have to create anything if they can get us to create it for them, because everything we think, everything we talk about, everything we feel, if we're fear-based and the source of everything that we do is out of fear, that goes into the biofield. You start collecting more and you're creating the very thing that they wanted you to create that they don't have to create anymore, because we're co-creators. And so if they can keep the ship going in their communication and their narrative, we're all doing it without them having to do anything. And they're just sitting back going whatever and feeding off the loosh, because they live off of that fear energy. And that's what sustains them when they're not doing other stuff. But
100%.
That's another show. So 2 more things before we go, because I know you're on vacay and doing your thing. Talk about the debate. What was your takeaway? What was your highlight? Like, where do you think this is going with the laptop? I mean, that could probably be a whole nother show, and you probably will do this tonight, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's game over. I mean, everyone was upset with the first debate. I still believe that Trump was strategically did what he did in the first debate. I believe he intended to be quote unquote a bully. I think he wanted to show how the robot Biden kind of shuts down. So people are like, oh, he's a bully. He did that on purpose. I don't think that was a mistake. But then I think last night was kind of the knockout punch. I mean, there's nobody last night. Now, I have not watched any media on the other side, but I saw some tweets and it sounds like CNN was freaking out. Donna Brazil was freaking out. Like they're all freaking out. I mean, he was calm. He came across presidential, which is what the masses need right now. And I don't say masses in a bad way. I'm just talking about the people who are not always awake yet. They needed to see someone presidential a week before the election. That's what they got. He let Biden talk, and I mean, they would have muted him anyway. And then we actually saw exactly what everyone needed to see, which was Biden glitching, Biden stuttering. I mean, whether we want to go down the clone road or not, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. What really matters was if that was Joe Biden up there, what you saw was if that was a human being right there, you saw a dementia / Parkinson's / neurologically inept individual who, at the end, I mean, you literally saw the drugs or whatever he takes wearing off an hour. I mean, I was watching the clock, and about 45 minutes in, you saw kind of the first glitch. And then at an hour in, he started going more. And then the last half hour, I mean, I actually wanted it to go another half hour because he was slipping fast. I mean,
Yeah.
he was saying poor boys instead of proud boys. He was stumbling over words. He was struggling. Clearly, they have him on an upper to keep him going through this stuff. And so it was an open shut case. I mean, a combination of, you saw the robot crashing, but also the president looked presidential and he had answers. And then also they let the laptop information out there. So
He was like,
it was
bam,
a perfect, he didn't destroy him on it, because keep in mind, I think he's trying to keep this image that he's not the one pushing it, president. He's keeping this image of he has nothing to do with it, which he can't have anything to do with it legally. So he just saying, oh, I heard a story. He's slowly, by the way, the president of the United States, he knows how the psychology of humans works. He wouldn't be where he is if he isn't. I think he's even in neuro-linguistic programming. He knows how it works. That's why he talks the way he talks. People are like, why does he always repeat himself? He knows how NLP works. He does it on purpose. That's how you get people to follow and listen. He's programming him in a positive way. So last night, all he did was he put it out there enough where people actually start questioning the laptop. Now it was pretty genius, honestly.
And then his guest of honor. I mean, that was savage.
Like all planned, all completely staged. Not staged, but planned.
Can you even imagine? Because someone was like, well, what's the big deal with that? I'm like, can you even imagine having to go live on a debate as Biden, like, to keep a straight face and to like concentrate, when knowing like dude sitting over here like watching every single thing that I'm saying? It's like, oh my God.
Honestly, I'll tell you this, psychology wise, never trust a person that when you're accusing them of their crimes, they have a giant grin on their face. And I'm being serious about that. A lot of people are like, oh, Joe is just funny, he's smiling. No. That is a person who has crimes, and they're using body language to try to take attention off themselves.
Yes, I have a study. I don't know if you ever watched Lie to Me, the TV show. It's really good. The doctor that they do the whole show on, I actually studied with him for years, and you're right. Body language is everything. It's interesting. So one last thing, and then I want you to tell everybody about how they can connect with you.
Definitely.
Tell me your 3 books. Like, if you could get, like, what are you reading right now? I know you're reading The Keys of Enoch, or you mentioned it, but
I scroll through it. I'm not reading it cover to cover, but yeah.
What are some books that you would suggest for people who are like wanting to research and look into stuff, or what resources would you talk about for just people starting out and or wanting to jump in this full on?
Yeah, I'll actually take you through the first 2 that I'm reading that are pretty straightforward and simple. And then the third one will probably shock a lot of people, and it's because I just like to study, and it's a Jason Q thing. So I'm reading Carnivore Code.
Carnivore.
By, I think it's Paul Saladino, which is a carnivore diet, carnivore lifestyle, keto-ish carnivore. That's a really good one. And I actually brought with me, it's a book technically, but I printed out PDF. It's Eustace Mullins, who's a very controversial individual. That one's called Murder by Injection. It's a PDF that I print out because he has old books. You can find them on Amazon a little bit, but they're pretty expensive. So the PDFs are out there, and he put them out there, so it's not stealing or anything like that. You want people to have them. Those are the first 2, and then the last ones I'm reading, based on interviews with Jason Q, and then some actual. I went and I started talking to some people. So this is another aspect of me that is very different. So I watched the Trump card, remember, with Dinesh D'Souza.
Yeah.
And one thing that happens is, and this, I'm not reading a Dinesh book, but like it has something to do with this when I go into this 3rd/4th book, is in the movie, Dinesh was reading Mein Kampf by Hitler.
Wow, was he? I saw that. I didn't see.
Well, the interesting thing is, obviously Dinesh is not
right.
a Nazi, right? But what intelligent people do is they read anything and everything, even if it doesn't agree with their viewpoint, because you have to understand what the opposing side or the opposition or the counter viewpoint is doing, right? So Dinesh is reading Mein Kampf not because he likes it, because he has to understand where this socialism thing is coming from. Where, like, you have to you know what I mean? Like, you can read something and not agree with it or not believe in you know what I mean? Like, he's doing that. So when Jason Q, a couple interviews back, he talked about the founder of Scientology, L. Ron
Yeah.
Hubbard,
Right.
was basically on the path from a
Yep.
spirituality standpoint, understanding things. So what I did was I go and I reach out to Scientologists, right? Some people who, like, I went and found and talked to them, and they're actually just really nice people. And so I said, hey, like, what would you say that I could read? Because I want to get a better understanding. And I'll tell you, don't go Google it, because that's going to take you down. Guess who runs Google? The mainstream media.
Right.
Right? Like, Google's not necessarily the greatest thing in the world. So I actually went and got Dianetics, which was original book. It's genius.
It is.
And there's nothing in there that is harmful. There's nothing in there that tells you to believe this, believe that. It's just information on the mind. And then they also told me to get this book called Science of Survival and Problems of Work. And Problems of Work is literally, like, you could read it in a day and a half. It's a freaking genius book. Like, genius from a productive, conservative, capitalistic, free market capitalist standpoint. So I get those two, in a book called Science of Survival. And it actually is pretty fascinating from a standpoint of vibration, I guess you could say. Like, he calls it tone levels. People who are very, very, like, kind of spiritually connected, happy, excited, and then the ones down here that are really, really not good, kind of like politicians. And so I've been studying through those, and I will tell you right now, it's very fascinating. It has helped my spiritual journey just from understanding society, human beings, why the mind does what it does. So I am reading books of all kinds. I tell people, if you see me at home in my studio, behind me is a bookshelf. And I think a lot of people think that, like, oh, well, everything on that bookshelf is totally conservative, totally pro-America, totally, like, just like all. There's things on that bookshelf that most people be like, what the hell are you reading that for? Why? Because if that book got somewhere in the world, you probably should read it. Like, Dinesh D'Souza is reading Hitler, not because he agrees with him. We need to understand viewpoints, not to agree with them, but to understand what we're dealing with. And so that's what I do. Like, I have a lot. I mean, I might have sometimes 5 to 10 books going on at one time, not like deep study, but reading pages here, pages there, because knowledge at the end of the day is what's going to move us forward, and take responsibility for that knowledge.
Yes, I love it. I get laughed at because I travel a lot and have for 2 decades, and I always have a suitcase that's like my stuff, and then I have a suitcase that's books, and my whole house, like, there's just books next to my bed and over here and over there. I mean, just books, and people are like, get a Kindle, and I can't.
I like physical books.
I want to underline and smell and write and dog, and even when I teach, if I'm up in a conference, I'll have my podium, and I have my books on a table next to me because I want to refer to them and, like, hold them, and interesting. But
and I will actually tell you, the funny part is, because I know everyone loves when we go into the spiritual part. I will tell you, to the left of my bookcase, you can't see on camera at home, I literally have the Keys of Enoch. I have 2 or 3 Bibles. I have the Dianetics book now, and I have a couple other different spiritual books. Like, literally, I'm reading everything, because my goal and job here on this planet is to understand what we're living in, understand knowledge, and gain as much as I can so I can make the best choices and be the most responsible person I can in my life.
That's awesome. And you're not afraid to do it.
Come on. Like, what is everyone afraid of? Just, like, if something does not match your viewpoint and something presses against you and you don't like it, then walk away from it and don't agree with it. It's not that hard, really. It's pretty simple.
Well, and ironically, so I watched that episode where you guys held it up or something. I'm like, what book is that? So I was like ordering it straight up. And I remember, like, in college, I had went to some Scientology, like, library or something, because I'm a geek and I love science. And I thought, okay, I love God and I love science, so this is cool. I'll check this out. And, and what I remember reading about then was actually like, wow, this is, like, really geeky and cool, and I like all this stuff. And then, but then yeah, then you get into the culture and all the other stuff and what it's turned into. But with MK Ultra, the Philadelphia experiment, Montauk, I mean,
I
he
tell
was
people, if you're
integral.
watching the movies, like, do you remember the Bourne Identity?
Mhm.
That's MK Ultra, folks.
Yep.
That's what that is. Like, that's what your government.
The Manchurian Project candidates. I mean, oh
Yeah.
my God. I went back
Totally.
and watched the one with Denzel, and I was, again, on purpose, and I was like, holy man, like it is scary. Then all the stuff with JFK and everything. But anyway, so yeah, I thank you for the referral, because
You're very welcome.
And at the bottom it says like the science of mental health, and I was like,
Right.
they don't say that really big, you know,
Right,
and I
right.
was like, but you get into it and you're like, this is all science. There's nothing weird about it. Like, but there's something weird about what it's turned into. I get that. I'm not a Scientologist. Please hear me. But
I always tell people, go to the source. I talked to some people that I met through it, and I like, hey, I'm curious. Tell me about it. They told me the book, and everybody's been cool and nice ever since. So I always just tell people, find out things for yourself, because the worst thing you can do is not just, you can take other people's viewpoints and understand them, but the mainstream media, Google, like I'm going to tell you right now, I use Google still. I don't Google hardly anything from a philosophical standpoint anymore. Like I'll Google how to find a book or whatever, but I go read for myself. I go study for myself, because their goal is to control you. The mainstream Google mindset is literally to control you. And so I just stay away from all that. But the ultimate goal for me is, we're going to take this to the networks. We're going to take this off of social media. And that's my goal on this, is literally, let's start educating each other through our own viewpoints. So like with my site, that's what I'm going to be doing. And I'm going to have a list of everything that I probably read and everything that I study on there, so that people can go, not because like I'm the authority. That's not it. It's just, these are the viewpoints that I'm coming from. This is my understanding of stuff. These are the political facts, the natural law facts. And I will tell you, I'm going to be basing, because I do every day, my world and my viewpoints on natural laws. It's as simple as that. And so I'm going to take it to a network. I mean, ultimately, long term, you talked about where you can find me.
yeah, where can we find you?
So it's therevolutionnetwork.com. But I will tell you that's changing very soon because of the social media rules. So we're probably going to be changing the network name a little bit. Don't worry, if you go there and like it and you sign up for the email list and everything else, and you go watch the videos, you won't get lost. We'll pull you along. We're just making sure we're not going to get censored anymore. And so if we're going to be on the network or on social media, it'll change a little bit in the coming weeks probably. But either way, go to that network, and that is where you're going to find the best truths that we can find, which is ultimate responsibility and restoring the republic, which is what I love. I love the idea of restoring the republic.
In real time. You do it in real time. Like sometimes you're there and you get something like in the moment while you're on live, and you're like, oh, let me look that up.
Of
and like
course.
you've never looked it up before, and now
Of
you're
course.
looking it up for all of us to learn with you. I love that,
100%.
that feature part of you. So yes, every single person, please go get his newsletter, sign up for his newsletter, go follow him on his Facebook page. He's got Twitter as well. He's always rolling out different things. But you know, I encourage you to do all of them, because if one goes down, you still have something else, and that way you can participate. And then for me too, please do go to swiftfire.org and get my newsletter, just because, oh my God.
She's clearly a gifted healer, so go talk to her.
I can't even get into, right now, I'm not allowed in any groups. They even booted me out of my own groups, except for one. There's one that I can get into, and I actually administrate several and have moderators. And I'm like, how can you kick me out? Because of community standards of my own experiences and my own patients that I'm working with. I was like, oh my God. But yeah, check that out. I do have a YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. It's just look up Dr.Sharnael for all of that. Swiftfire.org is the website. And then two, talking about books, I didn't know until a few days ago that you're keto, but this just came out at the beginning of the year, Keto
Nice.
Reset. So are you
Beautiful.
keto? Do you do keto?
I am carnivore keto before and after the pandemic. When I say I fell off a little bit, I wouldn't say I don't eat junk food, but like I'll have a snack here. We had so much time at home. When you're at home a lot, it's
Yeah.
hard to stay.
Yeah.
I will tell you. But
Yeah.
as this is winding down, I'm actually jumping back on the carnivore keto bandwagon. I still eat, even when during the pandemic, I was 80% carnivore keto. But yeah, that is my happy place is actually fully carnivore.
I'm
But
gonna look into that book that you said.
I love butter, so I throw butter all over
Oh, me
everything.
too. Me too. I actually shifted in 2014, so I had been keto like
Beautiful.
completely because of a health issue that happened, and I had woke up several times in a row because that's how I get a lot of my stuff. Was I'll wake up and I'll hear whatever, or I'll have a dream or something. But this book too is the Swift. I'm going to send both of these to you just to have them.
Oh, thank you. I will read them.
This is the Science of Miracles, and it goes into the subtitle is Remembering the Frequency of Love. And I say remembering because we all know this. It's all in our DNA already. We have we know everything already. It's just to upload it to the conscious and from the subconscious. And so to remember the frequency of love that's already in our DNA, it goes into the biofield, how to shift patterns, and you might enjoy it. I don't know.
I will absolutely enjoy it.
All right, dude. You're awesome. I'd love to have you back again. If you would ever come back, we could set that up. I know I'm supposed to do something with you, and that didn't work out yesterday. So maybe
just from a travel standpoint, connect back up as we'll get everything handled. That's not a problem. But yeah, travel ended up taking longer than normal, which should happen. But yeah, I by the way, first of all, anybody watching this, whether it's on her channel and her native viewers, or it's my viewers coming over, clearly a gifted individual here. So I appreciate all that you're doing. And obviously, if you're on the keto world, she understands quantum, she understands frequencies. Thank you for all you're doing, because you are literally, when I say at night, serve and help somebody or go do something that's going to move this movement forward, you're doing exactly that. So I thank you and appreciate your warrior and patriot spirits.
Awesome. Well, we will connect soon, and maybe we can set something up for next week. I'll talk to your lady, and I want to talk to you about some health stuff too. So I'll set an appointment. You guys, he does phone appointments too.
I do long distance. I do long distance stuff in my office. So yes, absolutely. NoblePatriotHealth.com, I think it is. And we can help anybody out. I've dealt with everything from the common cold to the most debilitating problems you have. And we just handle the body naturally with nutritional means and find the source. That's it.
Awesome. Actually, I've already sent a couple people to you. So
I appreciate it. Thank you. I will help them as best as possible.
Awesome. All right, dude. Have a good one. I will be on and see you tonight as well. And I hope you guys all join him tonight on his network. And everyone have a great day. And thanks for coming by. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.